Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are catching this video. It's Robbie. I'm back with the react. I'm glad that y'all can make it to be here to react with me while we get into this. So this is going to be coming from that YouTube channel, Nude and Shafu. It's time to be honest about Rockstar Games. Ever since they announced that the GTA 6 release is not going to be on physical disc, the gaming world has been in an uproar. It's been crazy. People talking about they not copping the game. They're done with PlayStation, Sony. Yeah, it's really bad. There's talks about a gaming market crash. Yeah. I wonder if Sega is paying attention to all of this. Anyway, let's not waste no time, y'all. Let's get to this video. Let's go. What a time. What a time. Got that up there on the shelf.
Years ago, Rockstar Games released the highly anticipated Grand Theft Auto 5 on 7th generation consoles. It was later upgraded for the following generations and PC over about the next 9 years. The same year saw 9th generation benefits. GTA 6 was officially announced to be in full development. This came after the blockbuster release of Red Dead Redemption 2, which enforced why the magnitude of hype around the next GTA was so grand to begin with. However, the obsessive nature around the game has definitely been a sight to behold.
Yes, exactly. All right, well guys, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Really
he's really on one right now.
disappointed. They're disappointed. That's just so disappointing. This is such a special night for so many developers, and it's really disappointing to see someone act that way. But we're gonna move right on with the show.
And I'd even say that's an understatement. Don't watch the next GTA 6 trailer. A video by William B. Campbell provides a well-structured thesis on how the GTA 6 community is handling their anticipation of this massive game. He talks about the dynamic of the brain's association with long-form and short-form entertainment and how the perception of the art changes based on how it's engaged. When you devote so much time and energy to squeezing every bit of information out of something before you actually get to experience it firsthand, you're limiting the amount of enjoyment you otherwise would have had by experiencing it fresh for the first time. Sense of wonder and discovery that people often revere about open world games, especially at the scale and detail that Rockstar deliver them, is something that is totally lost upon the player when they are extracting every bit of information they can get before.
I would agree with that. Like all of this talk around GTA 6, right? And seeing all of these trailers, it's kind of like, man, y'all are killjoys. Like y'all taking the anticipation, the excitement out of it, the suspicion. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like this back 20 plus years ago when GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas came out. Yeah, there were commercials for it, but that's as far as it went. You couldn't go on the internet and see someone talking about the game, you know what I mean? So I agree.
Or they've actually touched the game themselves, because then by the time they actually get their hands on the game and feels that in some fashion or another they've already experienced
right, they already played it.
Back to the original September 2022 leaks, and it's funny because this was the first time that we'd seen the game in any official capacity. It wasn't gorgeous, polished footage from Rockstar Games or an unedited gameplay reveal showcase, but it was the game. It was GTA 6. It was the thing that people have been conjuring in their heads for however long they have been, up until the point the game was officially announced earlier in the same year and leaked 9 months later. And although the leaks was a huge data breach for Rockstar, presumably pretty expensive to clean up, and a disappointment from the developer's point of view, granted that was our first official sighting of the game, it was pretty good for their PR, and for us, we actually had something to talk about. And when I say this was good for their PR, what I need you to understand is that during a period of total silence on the game, when there was no officially confirmed details, it would randomly go trending on Twitter and be the talk of the town just out of complete nowhere. Not following any quotes or interviews with developers, any releases of updates on their social media, any trailers, screenshots, anything. It would just go trending. Now, this did happen prior to the 2022 leaks after what is widely known as the Project Americas leak, but the anticipation for the game kicked into full gear after the announcement of it being in full development, because we knew by that point we were past the era of baseless speculation. Insiders said this, reporters said that, leaks, rumors, clickbait, all sorts of stuff. we were eventually going to start getting some information about GTA 6. But little did we know, had it not been for the September 2022 leaks, it would have been a year and 10 months before we first seen the game in all its glory. So of course people were getting a little impatient after already having waited a few years just to see the game, just to get a small tease on the way to trailer 1. But a reasonable amount of anticipation and excitement was going to get out of hand in a matter of time. And that's
Yo, the level of detail in this game is crazy.
On one such unsuspecting day, a notorious hacker whose group was linked to data breaching the likes of Microsoft, Samsung, Uber, and Nvidia grabbed a hold of an Amazon Fire Stick in a hotel and infiltrated the Slack DMs of a Rockstar employee through phishing. These back and forth messages included almost 3 hours of debugging clips that consisted of different interactions, places around the map, items, and mechanics. And people began to piece together the kind of GTA game they thought we would be getting just from these leaked clips alone. But the important thing to realize is that these videos were not meant for the public eye. So it's entirely possible that at any point in time, these mechanics or different items that are in the game could be reworked or even...
I swear, man, people just have goldfish brain, man. People just can't wait no more. They've waited so long for GTA 6. It's been talked about this game probably since the start of 2020, and it's already about to be 2027. And here we are about to be 7 years in, and it's just the anticipation is just there, you know. I'm sure a little bit might have died down once they announced that there would be no physical copies of the game, but still, people are going to be wanting to get this game. You know what I'm saying?
Cut before
regardless,
the final retail version of the game releases. And in retrospect, these videos are at minimum 4+ years old. So I'm almost 100% sure that there's some things that are in the leaks we probably won't see in the full game. Some of these things being heavily speculative, such as being able to move around seats in cars. I'd say the more reasonable conclusion on this is that since they're debugging, they're probably moving around the assets in the vehicle model to ensure that it could fit for different body types or versions of the same car. However, people will run with it and say, well, does this mean we're going to be able to customize every little aspect of the interior in our vehicles and GTA 6 vehicle customization? Which would certainly be a dope thing to have in the game, but considering the context of the videos, I wouldn't necessarily chalk it up as probable. But then again, it all comes back to your idea of what you think GTA 6 should or shouldn't have, and trying to justify it with, well, they spent however much money they spent on the game. It's rumored that it's about 1 to 2 billion, and it's been 13 years since the release of GTA 5, so they got to add everything in this game to make up for the gap. And when we continue to take a look at the, for a lack of a better term, delusions of the community, it becomes a running theme because people have genuinely been waiting a pretty long time, and it is a pretty expensive budget. It's shaping up to be the most expensive anything ever produced in entertainment media. And if the most expensive anything ever produced in entertainment is more than your favorite movie, TV show, book, or other video game franchise, then of course you're going to be holding this thing to a much different standard than you would anything else. This seemingly holds true for people who are not even necessarily fans of the franchise that are also anticipating GTA 6, because it's the idea of what the game could be and not necessarily what you're realistically expecting it to be when it releases later this fall. And this is a difficult stance to maintain because ultimately fans of the series can also have expectations for the game that are basically impossible to measure up to. But I suppose what I'm getting at is this idea that GTA 6 is going to solve world hunger, cure cancer, get rid of depression, whatever the case may be. But let me not be disingenuous and say that this game will not get millions and millions of people through a tough time. I'm sure that it absolutely will, but I simultaneously believe that there's an interesting dynamic occurring within the fan base right now that is something along the lines of what GTA 6 should be, what the GTA series consists of, and how can we incorporate all of these elements without losing the core identity. Something that is pretty important to mention is that if GTA 6 is just another GTA game, it will inevitably be considered a flop. And it's not like the court of public opinion.
I don't think so. I think that this game is going to just embody everything that people are so accustomed to today. They've incorporated all that. I'm telling you, it's going to be, they already talking about it. You're going to see guys locked in. You're going to be like, damn, man, where you been? You've been gone for months. Yeah, I've been playing GTA, man. What you thought this was? See what I'm saying? Come out looking like a whole different person, looking like Robin Williams and Jumanji when he finally got released from the game.
Anyway, for a game that's going to presumably print this much money, but it is just an interesting discussion to have. And so you may be asking, okay, Shifu, who are these people that you're referring to, and what are the things that make them so delusional? Well, I will confidently say that delusion at times is a very good thing. In this case, I'm not so sure. Let me first say that we have been incredibly spoiled. And not only that, but the AAA industry is on a rapid decline. But this isn't a video about Sony. We can talk about that another time, and we'll save the Rockstar company stuff for the Rockstar segment. Right now, we're talking about the fan base. Basically, from the original leaks to the recent pre-order info dump, we now know enough about the game that there's a decent basis of understanding of what we're going to be getting in a few months. Of course, there's a degree of curiosity with some of the more practical stuff, like what is the game going to play like? How many cars is there going to be? What's the customization going to be like? How many other locations are in the game? We've got 6 of the confirmed major locations within the state of Leonida, but we know enough about the game now that truthfully, I think if we got nothing except a gameplay trailer to hold us over for 4 months, most people would be satisfied with that. The problem is that the people who have been dreaming of this game for so long are starting to see that the real thing is perhaps not as good as they may have imagined it, which is an absolutely insane thing to say about a game that looks as good as it does and that hasn't officially released yet. But it's the fact of the matter regardless. This is just where we're at with internet communities. When I say that GTA 6 is not going to be more than a video game, I'm not speaking in a sentimental manner, I'm speaking in a technical manner. There's a lot of things that have soured the hype of the game, and I think funnily enough, the original leaks actually was that thing for some people. They didn't want the surprises to be spoiled early by a version of the game their eyes were never meant to see. And still,
yeah, I see what he's saying. It's like we getting all of these visuals, and who's to say that the game was actually going to look like that? Now, Rockstar did release these trailers, some of these trailers themselves, and it looks to be on par with what we've seen early on. So, I mean, who knows? But this is going to be one of the most played games for the next 10 years, like, make no mistake.
With the game looking as good as it does, there is a demographic of people out there who believe that trailer 1 looks like shit, not even presumably in comparison to trailer 2, but just on its own. And this is not very far off from the group of folks who will scrub through over 100 screenshots, analyzing every pixel of every frame, looking for something that is less than the most.
I mean, let's remember, people, it is a video game. It's not supposed to look real. At that point, it's no longer a video game. It's like, let's keep some of it fake looking. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Immensely gorgeous thing visually conceivable in a video game. They'll start bringing up perfectly normal things that video games have, like LOD, proximity rendering, parallax interiors, and not in the sense of, wow, this is so impressive, but in the sense of, wow, wait a minute, this is a video game. And as weird as it sounds, I think that is a disappointing reality to a very small subset of people. For example, I want you to look at this post and tell me with a straight face that this is not supposed to be satire. This person thinks that it would be a cool idea to design an entire gameplay system around the prospect of legal career opportunities through community colleges. There's been talk of 70% of all the game's buildings having enterable interiors. Some people want the game to be a full-on truck simulator, which I've seen said similarly for other things in the game, like the sports, cage fighting, basketball, mini golf, hunting. This is probably leaning more into that community colleges. I want to pay taxes in the game. I want to pay the electric bill in the game.
Y'all asking for an awful lot in a video game. And all this is going to essentially do is just delay it even more. Oh, I want to be able to pay taxes. Oh, I want to be able to work a job and earn real money and convert it. Like, this is a video game, people. We have to remember that. It's not supposed to have all this going on.
So I don't even know what to say about this shit. The result of having waited so long is inspiring a profound level of irrationality that is becoming pretty difficult to comprehend. At this point, I would say it is like just ridiculous. And for elements that, if we're being honest, people are not just hoping, but at least a little bit expect to actually make it into the game. But should we really be surprised? I mean, we're talking about the same game where the anticipation of it is driving people to storm on stage during presentations, begging for official details. Some guys set up acoustics outside the Rockstar North office to measure decibels and also keep track of the amount of people in the area, with the potential to also measure oxygen levels, with the idea that recording a high amount of activity would suggest that a trailer 3 is probably coming soon. They
It's
take
not
release
that
dates
deep.
of games, rock albums, and decals on cars and attribute it to being these sophistically placed details that triangulate when the next information will be shared about the game. They do it with lunar moon cycles, paintings, that one shirt that released in GTA Online, which actually did end up having the real trailer 1 date on it, funny enough. License plates. I remember that one post a little while ago where somebody counted the individual colors of every single scene in trailer 1. They're quitting drugs for the game, and that's actually a pretty good thing. That's not delusional. They're sweeping all over the internet for different movies, TV shows, and IMDb profiles to try and make sense of who's playing who in the cast. Although I will say this is probably one of the most tame things that the community has done, especially considering that the current consensus rumored actress for Lucia kind of soft confirmed it during an interview.
I got into voiceover during like late 2020,
which according to a report from Take-Two is when they began full development on the game. Although it was probably a bit earlier than that. I guess they mean when the majority of the company was all hands on deck. Following the apparent discovery from the community, her management deactivated her social media accounts, which sort of lines up with how strict Rockstar is with their NDA agreements. But I guess we've kind of made our point. It's amazing to see the collective hype and anticipation of something so grand bring people a sense of community that they otherwise don't get from other mediums or other video games. However, people are so ridiculously hyped for this game that they're willing to let nonsense rhetoric that either they themselves or someone online has planted in their brain guide their idea of how they think the pre-release promotion of the game and of course the actual details on the game itself should turn out. They take CEO investor call jargon that anyone else in any other community would chalk up as just being marketing talk as literally as possible. They substantiate tweets from unverified sources that allegedly have certain features in the game and say, well, it could be true. They post links and screenshots from retailers that nobody, including them, has ever heard of and say,
yeah, I honestly think Rockstar is just genuinely letting the public run with whatever narrative they want to run with. It's like, look, until we officially come out with something, y'all think what y'all want to think. But when this game does release, you're going to get a totally different immersive experience than what y'all been seeing online. At least that's what I get from this, how they're moving at this point, because either you're going to be happy about it or you're going to be mad, or you're going to be somewhat in the middle. You know what I'm saying? This has been the most anticipated game in the last, 10 years? So I mean, ever since GTA 5, there had already probably been people ramping up for when a new GTA would come out, which we knew it was going to be some years before that happens. And they've been riding on GTA 5 for 10 years. That's a good run for a game.
Pre-order prices leaked. And because misinforming people about GTA 6 is perhaps one of the most lucrative things you can possibly do on the internet, or at least on social media, I can't imagine this is going to turn out well for launch.
Strive for depth, being able to go into your environments, and when you go into those environments, be able to pick up and interact with things and be able to interact with people and interact with animals and interact with the world in a way that we haven't been able to do before. If we were trying to create a world that you believe in, character that you believe in, you have to have that connection. And so we're always trying to push, I think, with every game to go deeper with that, that sort of idea.
It would be journalistic malpractice of me to not ask, why did we never get a sequel to Bully?
I think there was just bandwidth issues.
I never played Bully.
You know, if you've got a small lead creative team and a small senior leadership crew, you just can't do all the projects you want.
What do you miss about your time at Rockstar? Is there specific moments that bring you joy when you think about them?
Of course, it was my whole, it was my life for 20 something years, 21 years or something.
Yeah.
It was, and I moved to America to do it and grew up doing it. And I was always living in New York. It was at times very intense.
It's not so much the company that was bumming me out. It was the attitude of the people in the company. Everybody
At
was,
the higher level? At the higher level?
No. People around me.
Oh, really?
They were
Okay.
complaining so much.
There's cracks in the foundation, huh? You know what I'm saying? But I guess that's with any company that is a big developer of a AAA title or AAA game. It's going to always be friction, tension amongst, you know, senior execs and just people, period. So,
Like so sour on things. And after a time, you can't spend 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week with people that just don't like what they do.
I probably should have left before GTA 5, but like you just get into sport and people go through. But yeah, the hardest thing for me though was less about the impact on me, which I'm kind of ashamed to say. It probably should have been my family, but it was mostly watching really good people either get sick or leave for no other reason than they just couldn't do the hours anymore. Or like we had a guy that was working, a brilliant engineer. But
They weren't, they weren't they weren't happy when I left. But you got to do what you got to do, and that's one of that's one of the few times I voluntarily left. And a lot of people would say, like, you're crazy. Why would you?
you know, this says a lot about us as human beings. Like, a lot can be said just from hearing what these guys are saying, because what I'm gathering from this is that, you know, humans want what they want, no matter what it takes. And we still live in a world right now where we still need humans to execute certain things in order for those things to come to fruition. Hence, a video game of this level, it requires hours upon hours of development, building, and these are human beings at the end of the day. They still got lives, they still got children, loved ones that they want to be around. And for the company, it's like, look, all that's out the window right now. We got to get this game out because people are salivating at the mouth. They want this game. So you need to put aside whatever you got going on mentally, spiritually, emotionally, put that to the side. Financially, it's like, damn, you know, it's like we need to be a little bit more compassionate to people in a way. Just a thought.
Rockstar, it's great, blah blah blah. I just felt like I needed to get away from.
But and always just tried to
It's burnout, man.
sharp and do my best and think about how I could do it in a new way. Always trying to go, it's a new medium. What can we do that's new? I don't know. I felt like I was good at doing it and well trained for it, and I'd been in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
and I was both lucky and had a way of thinking about characters that when you reduced them to about 10 sentences was amusing.
like he was so smart and just so good, super reliable, like lead level guy. He was working, he had been, doing software for a long time. He's like, I can work 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So like, that's all I got. Anything more than that, and I'm going to be writing bullshit. I'm just going to add more work. And because he wasn't there, sometimes at 11 o'clock or whatever, when people would come out from the review offices and leaders would not see him and want to talk to him, he got like a black eye because of that, right? And that just felt shitty to him. He's like, why do I have to feel bad about working 12-hour days, And I'm like, you're right, you shouldn't. And but it did. Like that was part of the culture a little bit. And so, and he ended up leaving, and I'm like, God, what a waste. And there was examples of that where, one of our artists was just absolutely rock solid, brilliant artist, like having like, thinking he's having heart attacks at work because he's so stressed. You know what I mean? Like there's that kind of stuff. And, as someone that, as production, I think, there's a big part of it. I think when you're doing it right, that you care and you're looking after people, like you're trying.
Yeah. I would imagine that for a game of this magnitude that's been around for 20 plus years, I would imagine that it is a high stress level environment. I don't care what it is that you're doing, whether you're doing the cover art for the rollout for the trailer or just the posters, there's a lot of stress behind everything. You know, we as gamers, we take that for granted. You know what I mean? Like we don't really, I think, consider what all goes into making a game like this. Because we have to remember, with every single GTA that they made, they just kept getting better and better at it. You look at GTA 3 compared to GTA 6, I mean, it's like night and day. And don't get me wrong, I will still play a game of GTA 3, but if you go back and play that, it's kind of almost equivalent to playing on a 16-bit or 32-bit console. It's like, huh? But that's where it started. And I'm sure even then, you know, it was a lot with that. Because I was watching a video, I'm going to let it play after this, but I was watching a video where they was telling you about the team at Rockstar back then. It was probably like a team of 20 people. Whereas you fast forward today, it's probably 100 plus people working at Rockstar now. It's crazy.
To take care of people and help them, you know, yeah, to get the work done, but also because they're your people. You're trying to keep them, you know, feeling like working is something that they should be doing and they feel good about doing. And watching just really good people not be able to keep up with just really dumb production practices and development practices, like it wore on me after a while. And
creating in a PlayStation 3 game is a truly realized, truly immersive, living, breathing world. This is what we live for. You know, every 5 or 6 years, this amazing company like Sony comes along and gives you this wonderful new piece of equipment that allows you to start unlocking your vision, unlocking the dreams that you've been having for however long. With sound.
Been an opening like this in the entertainment industry. This week, Grand Theft Auto 5 pulled in $1 billion in sales in 3 days.
Damn.
No movie or music release has ever come close to that.
Now that's what you call diehard fans. That's what you call loyalty. It only took them 3 days to make 1 billion. And I know it probably didn't cost 1 billion to make GTA 5 back then, but that's just the loyalty that people have, the cult following they've built with that game, that franchise. It's like Star Wars in a way. You know what I mean?
Video game that is shattering sales records.
That is to say the least. There's a good chance the teenage gamers in your house may be, well, playing it as we speak.
You know, Michelle Rowland, the game made almost $1 billion in sales in just the first 24 hours. Places here in the Valley sold out.
As we close out this video, I find it kind of interesting that there's two ways we could start this segment. One is, you know, everybody knows Rockstar Games. What is there to say about this company that hasn't been said already? And the other is, well, perhaps there's too much. It's always a bit of an uncomfortable discussion to have when you look at something that brings you joy or comfort through a critical lens. I mean, some of the things that come to mind, smartphones, name brand clothing. These are things that are typically made in woefully unfair, sometimes gruesome, and even fatal working conditions. And if we're being completely honest, you know, this reality of how expensive products are made is not enough of a deterrent for us to not invest in flagship mobile devices or name brand clothing. It's just one of those things that we acknowledge and kind of move on with our days about. And as the saying goes, nobody wants to see how the sausage is made. And I think in a similar way, the gaming industry kind of parallels with that sort of thinking. We're in this culture now where, you know, folks go online to get their daily fix of rage bait and dumb fuckery from grifting and commentary slop, which influences the way that they think about the media that they consume. Of course, everything that they consume does. It's just that depending on what it is, whether it be, you know, dev breakdown analyses, I talked about this in a previous video, or some informative pieces where people are talking about how the industry works from the inside out, it is vastly different from people who are lying for subscriptions. They're lying because they know it's a lot easier to get people to click on the video by saying bullshit instead of having real dialogue. And I think in the midst of this...
Yeah, we live in a day and age of yellow journalism. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of that on YouTube. That's why even when I react now, I kind of got to be a little bit like, okay, I know they're probably reaching with this thumbnail, the title, but I'm still going to, invest in it and see if there's anything that I could pull from this. You know what I'm saying?
Anti-opinion wave, where you instantly invalidate your stance by using one of the buzz terms, woke, dead, slop, or pick Twitter's flavor of the week term out of a hat. People have kind of stopped acknowledging that there's real lives behind the things that they're consuming. And
Right.
in fact,
That's what I was saying.
Probably even go as far to say that it's probably always been the case. Obviously, this is excluding the idolatry that is bred from mega releases like your GTA 5s, Skyrims, Elden Rings, Ocarina of Times. And when we forget that, it's no wonder that people will go to shoot down teaser trailers for games that they allegedly don't like the look of, or when they're preying on the downfall of games because they see a Steam chart and it ignites some primal thinking in their nerves that makes them think they're high and mighty for playing Call of Duty and 2K and not a peasant for enjoying games with 10 to 15K players on Steam. But Rockstar Games has become so big now that it's become increasingly harder for people to see them as a collective and not as a company. And like any company, especially as we've seen over the past 7 to 8 years, things just change. Things are never going to stay the same regardless of how good or bad they are. You talk about companies like Bethesda being on top of the world over a decade ago, and Bungie being on top of the world in the early 2000s with the Halo series. And now you're seeing people have doubts because it's been 15 years since Skyrim's launch and 11 years since Fallout 4's launch. And they're just now coming out and saying that they've entered pre-development on Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 is still ongoing full development. And then, of course, a company like Bungie, we're not entirely sure what the sphere of Marathon is looking like right now, but it certainly is not as good as, Destiny was in the early 2010s. Going into Destiny 2, and obviously not the run that they had with Halo in the early 2000s. And knowing how massive Rockstar Games is, the many studios that they have in their conglomerate, and how high the expectations are getting and how high the budgets are getting, I frankly think it would be absolutely foolish to assume that they could not have a similar fate. To assume that they would.
Yeah, I mean, they've been leading the pack for quite some time now with the GTA series, Red Redemption, things like that. But it's like, how long can they keep that up? I mean, GTA 6 is, like I said, it's going to be a big, deal. It's one of the most, like I said, it's probably the most anticipated game in the last 10 years. And so, like he said in the beginning, AAA titles are dying out now. There's really nothing else out there. So this right here, this release is going to basically make or break the gaming industry, in my opinion, in terms of where we're headed at this point. Because with all these talks about there not being any more physical games and Sony's not making any more disc anymore, like it's getting crazy. And then Xbox, and I was saying earlier, I mentioned Sega. There's talks about, well, not saying talks about, but there are a lot of enthusiasts online, gaming enthusiasts online. And I'm gonna throw myself in there that are like, what if Sega did come back into the console market? Doesn't have to be a super glamorous system, just a system that can play, third-party titles, AAA titles. Like, imagine them coming out with a Sonic Adventure 3, right? As the launch title, packaged with the game, or the console, I should say. You know what I'm saying? And they just make a dope trailer, or not even trailer, but fan art or artwork, where all you see is Sonic's eyes coming out of the shadows, and then it just says 3, and then it has a date. Like, imagine that. And Sega get back all their IP. Man, I would be down for that.
Never divert to a route that they don't typically go down, or a cadence that they're not typically delivering at, which, I mean, funny enough, the current Rockstar games that we're witnessing right now is a product of just that. The shelf life of GTA 5 has lived in the shadow of GTA Online and the modded clients on PC supporting the roleplay experiences for the past 13 years.
Yeah, GTA Online has been keeping Rockstar alive. It's been keeping the lights on, because for them to have not put out a GTA game in this long of a gap, a lot of times most companies, they would have been tanked and went under. Because you think about GTA 4 came out in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And then they came out with The Ballad of Gay Tony, and they came out with Lost to the Dam. Those were like sub games. And then in 2013, they launched GTA 5. So it wasn't that big of a gap. Let me see, 2000, let me see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 5 years. This is over 10 years since the release of the last one.
Not the single player experience, which we know now was actually supposed to get DLCs. And of course, you know, we're kind of playing cats in hindsight here because GTA 4 sold significantly less copies than GTA 5. But the people loved episodes from Liberty City. And in 2013, this is not before the age of microtransactions or paid content in your premium priced game, but I'm assuming it was certainly a lot more plausible to theorize about what DLCs would be coming to GTA 5, knowing that it was something they delivered with 4, than to theorize about the cars or the jets or businesses that would be added to GTA Online. Because that was something that it was a trailer that they released showing what the potential of a GTA MMO-esque style experience was going to look like. But even Rockstar didn't anticipate that it was going to blow up as much as it did. And when it blew up, the rest is history. And it's really interesting to think about because, you know, in the LA Comic-Con clip with Ryan McCaffrey and Dan Houser, he's answering the question about, you know, why didn't we get a sequel to Bully? And he's saying something along the lines of they didn't have the facilities for it or the bandwidth. So you have all these big ideas that can't be supported with either the amount of personnel or budget to, you know, fully realize them. And now Rockstar Games is bigger than I guess anybody really could have imagined at the time. But as a result, we're just going to be rotating through GTA live service content, GTA single player, and Red Dead single player for who knows, maybe the next 20, 30 years. So this is already different from the cadence that they had 15 to 20 years ago, where they were either, in the case of Max Payne 3, continuing the IP from a different company, or they were creating a new IP. You know, LA Noire had offloaded resources to Team Bondi. Manhunt was a new IP. They essentially made a tech engine demo with the table tennis game. Red Dead Redemption itself is a sub-franchise of the Red Dead series. And it's safe to say, right, that with the amount of influence they have in the industry, with hundreds upon millions of copies sold across franchises and the trust that they've established with both players and their parent company, they could basically do whatever they want. But as a corporation, and who knows, maybe I just don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm sure in a lot of cases I don't. But it seems like they plausibly cannot continue at this cadence. The budgets are getting astronomically high. The expectations are getting astronomically high. Knowing the standard that they've set with Red Dead 2 and the standard that they are presumably going to meet.
Now, I might be making a stretch when I say this, but like he just mentioned that the budgets are high. Well, one would ask the question, why are the budgets so high? Well, for me, I'm thinking that it has a lot to do with just what's going on in the world. You know what I mean? We still have to remember there are human beings behind this machine, this engine that's building these games. And they have lives that they have to live. They have to pay rent. They got to have transportation. They got to pay for groceries. Some of them might have families that they have to take care of. And so they got to get paid. You know what I mean? You got to think about the voice actors that they're getting to do the voices. They want to get paid. So, yeah, it's a collective of things that would explain why there are much higher budgets for these games now. And then these consoles that they're building have all of this technology and AI, et cetera. And so it takes a lot more ingenuity, in my opinion, to build out a lot of these games. So it's kind of crazy to see where we are, though.
With
honestly.
GTA 6, it seems like they've primed players to expect nothing less than genre-defining, technology-bending games every single outing. And that if they happen to divert from that or deliver anything less than that, then it may please enough people that, unfortunately, it's not profitable enough to consider. Maybe they actually do decide to revive the Agent project, or they decide to make Bully 2 and it just doesn't print.
Like, I'm going to stop letting it, I'm going to let it play through because we got to get through it. But I sometimes wonder, would it be best if we just say, okay, look, we don't need to see super duper crazy 3D graphics. We just want a good game, good story plot, you know, good mechanics, all of that. You can chill with the graphics and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, is this what we want as gaming consumers? Is this really what we want? Do we want the games to be really off the rails in that way where it's like super duper realistic and it's almost like you're in the game? Like, I don't think we really want that now. I think we just want to enjoy games for what they are and what they were truly meant to be. You know what I mean?
As much money as GTA 6. I'm sure at this point they've already decided that developing single player DLCs is not going to print as much money as online content and shark cards. And going back to the budgets and expectations thing, I mean, just think about it. Like, some developers spend 13 years as their entire career, let alone creating one game. From pre-production to full development to gone gold and shipped, technically GTA 6 has been in development for that long. And the game hasn't even shipped yet. It's probably not going to get delayed again, but if it does, then you can tack on another year. And then on top of that, you know, behind the curtains, you're not even talking about video game stuff. You're talking about what Rockstar has been known for a very long time, which is horrendous management and lots of controversy. You know, some of the ones that come to mind are San Andreas Hot Coffee, a longtime producer being in the Epstein files for apparently having inappropriate affairs with one of the survivors, which you all now know him as the guy that made Mind's Eye. The culture of severely crunched developers, from 100-hour work weeks during the development of Red Dead 2 to even 120-hour work weeks during the
It's the last thing you need your company to be associated with, some damn e-files. You know what I'm saying? Or someone in your company associated with that. That is just not good for the public.
A bully company being described as a boys club during its early days, which I can just imagine what that means. The departure of key players in the company, ironically, the restructuring of the company as well. This led people to believe that the quality of the games would turn out worse. Key figures, I understand, you know, those are the people who were in very important positions behind a lot of the things that people loved over the past 20 years. But saying that developers having healthy work-life balances would make the games bad is just dumb. More recently, the Ultimate Edition benefits have also gotten some mixed feedback due to the nature of content that's been locked behind the paywall. I wouldn't necessarily say the amount of content. The narrative around this is essentially that because gameplay elements like mod shops and clothing stores are entirely locked off unless you spend 20 extra bucks on the game, that it's a pretty big deal. Some folks would disagree. They would say that it's not as much of a big deal. It just kind of feels like it's one of those subjective things. I don't know, because in comparison, when you look at games like Assassin's Creed Shadows or NBA 2K, FC 27, WWE, Forza Horizon, Borderlands, even when you look at a game like Call of Duty, where the Vault Edition is the same price as GTA's Ultimate Edition, the game comes out every year. So you're paying for it with the understanding that it'll only be supported for a few seasons. In fact, as you're watching this video right now, COD 2027 at this stage is probably deep into its development cycle. And among the games I just mentioned, you'd have a tough time arguing that any of them, bar maybe Forza or AC Shadows, would give you the shelf life of a premium single player Rockstar title. And that's without pop-ups every time you boot up the game, or an entire microtransaction store on its own with boosts and Gatorade bonuses and skill caps. But I'm basically saying all this to say that their influence is so vast that it is almost certainly a detriment. Obviously, people are going to buy the game. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that this company cannot do anything. They can barely move their elbow without it being on someone's radar. Remember what we were talking about earlier with the acoustics being set up? Well, I mean, apparently some guy has a tracker where he could see the amount of pizza deliveries that are going to Rockstar North HQ.
My God, come on.
Real thing that somebody somewhere is monitoring. This level of very heavy anticipation and obsessing over something is at some point sure to lead to a massive disappointment. Maybe not for everybody, but I think for enough people that is going to make a lot of noise. And considering just how insane the expectations are becoming, I think the bubble has to burst at some point. I'm not saying that the company is going to go bankrupt. I'm not saying that the company is going to fail or anything like that. I'm saying that at some point, if the company starts to scale back a bit, or if they start developing things within a smaller scope, because you know, people have lives outside of the studio, people want to go home to their families. In fact, in that video that I was referencing earlier, the Kiwis Hawks developer interviews, the other two people that he was interviewing had said that they didn't even have any Rockstar related reason why they left. They just wanted to be home with their families. families, or they were just tired of sitting behind a desk for so many years. The fact that we could be looking at an entirely different Rockstar in the next 10 to 20 years is a very interesting thought to entertain, because we don't know what that means for better or for worse. And I think it's very fun and very important to discuss and speculate about, because ultimately, I mean, a lot of the faces that made the company what it is, that made the experiences that people love so much over the past 20 years, bar Aaron Garbett, Rob Nelson, Sam Hauser. And Sam Hauser, you know, he's getting a little old. At some point, he's going to move on too. We're talking about the guy who's the co-founder of the company. Who knows what the future of Rockstar Games holds? All we can really hope is that it holds something great for us players, and that the ambitions of the teams at Rockstar does not end up swallowing them in due time. And I think that's probably my biggest concern with Rockstar Games.
All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Shouts out to him. I'll be sure to link the original video in the description in case y'all want to go check it out. But I totally agree. I think that once this GTA 6 game launches, we're going to see a completely different Rockstar. There's going to be a shift within the company, within the brand. And like you said, you know, the original founders might leave because, I mean, people are getting older now. They got, like you said, they got families. They have other things that they want to attend to. They don't want to, you know, pretty much center their whole life around a game for the sake of other people, because that's what they want. You know, it's like, yeah. So it's going to be quite interesting to see where this company goes, but I'm definitely looking forward to the launch of the game. Yes, I am going to do my best to try to get my hands on it. I need to get a PlayStation 5 first. That's mission number one. But yeah, we'll figure it out. But if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Make sure y'all chin check that like button, sub to the channel. Make sure y'all spam them comments. Let me know what y'all was thinking in this whole thing. That being said, it's your boy Robbie. Until the next video, we out.